How does a speaker amplify sound? The core component behind this is the transistor. As the name suggests, a transistor has three terminals: the base, the emitter, and the collector. This is the circuit symbol of a transistor. The base and emitter form the input circuit, and the base and collector form the output circuit. When a small signal is applied at the input, an amplified signal appears at the output. This is the basic principle behind sound amplification in a speaker. It's important to note that this amplification does not come from nowhere. Otherwise, it would violate the law of conservation of energy. In reality, the power supply provides the circuit with the ability to deliver, for example, up to 100 amps of current. The transistor's job is to control the output current below that limit. It makes the output current a fixed multiple of the input current. So how does a transistor achieve such precise control? Let's take a look at its internal structure. Inside a transistor, there are three regions: the emitter, the base, and the collector. Each region has its own characteristics. The emitter has a very high concentration of electrons and is negatively charged. The base in the middle contains holes, is positively charged, and allows holes and electrons to recombine. The base region is extremely thin, while the collector region is much larger. The collector contains some electrons as well, and is also negatively charged, like the emitter. This type of transistor is called an NPN transistor. Now we apply a voltage U between the base and the emitter. Under this voltage, electrons from the emitter start moving into the base. They recombine with holes in the base, forming the base current IB. Because the base is very thin and contains only a limited number of holes, many electrons cannot recombine there. Next, we apply a voltage U between the emitter and the collector. Under use, the excess electrons in the base are pulled into the collector. This forms a current IC through the circuit. The collector current IC combines with the base current IB to form the emitter current IE. At this point, IB plus IC equals IE. This is the basic operating principle of a transistor. The collector current IC is much larger than the base current IB, often hundreds of times larger. What's remarkable is that this ratio is fixed. If IB increases by a certain factor, IC increases by the same factor. Why does this happen? Let's look at it more closely. As mentioned earlier, the base contains some holes but mostly empty space. Assume the empty space is twice the size of the holes. When power is applied, electrons begin to flow. Some electrons recombine with holes to form IB. Other electrons pass through the gaps and reach the collector, forming IC. Because the gaps are twice as large as the holes, the number of electrons reaching the collector is twice the number that recombine in the base. That means IC equals 2 times IB. Now, if we increase U, more electrons enter the base. Since the ratio between gaps and holes remains unchanged, the ratio between IC and IB also remains unchanged. As a result, the amplification factor stays constant. This is why the transistor's gain remains stable. That's all for today's video. I hope this was helpful. See you next time.